Welcome to Rating the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad, and we are continuing our review of top 10 horror movies. And on this episode, we will be reviewing number 9, which is Get Out from 2017.
All right. Get Out was written and directed by Jordan Peele, starring Daniel Kaluuya and Allison Williams. Our IMDb.com synopsis is as follows. A young African-American visits his white girlfriend's parents for the weekend, where his simmering uneasiness about their reception of him eventually reaches a boiling point.
Yeah, so in the episode where we were discussing the list that we reviewed, I mentioned 2017 being the time when those lists had to come out. The reason that it had to be was because of this movie. In my opinion, this isn't just a great horror movie. This is one of the best movies that's come out this century. This movie is fantastic. I'm not a huge horror fan, so for a horror movie to really grab me, it's got to be a great film first. Mm-hmm. And this is a great film. This was a big surprise. You know, anyone who is a fan of Jordan Peele kind of thinks of him as, you know, part of Key and Peele and their sketch show or other comedy stuff he's done. So to see him kind of delve into the world of horror as a filmmaker was very, very interesting.
Yeah, so, let me touch on music a little bit. This music was great. It was super creepy and subtle, but very dark. I really liked it. Such interesting concepts, right?
You can tell just by this and the other films that he has made at this point, and also by the fact that he was the executive producer on the remake of it on the new Paramount Plus, is that he is a huge fan of the Twilight Zone. This has big Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it does, actually. Yeah, now that you say it. Yeah, he's going to his girlfriend's house, who her family's white. He's already he's already worried about it.
He's already a little uneasy because, he asks her, do they know I'm black? And she said she hasn't mentioned it. So he's already uneasy because, he doesn't know how her parents are going to react to that. And, she tries to reassure him, they're not racist or whatever, but you never know.
Right. So they get to her house. She introduces him to her parents and then her brother. And it's really interesting, especially because this is my second time watching the movie. I think it's Brad's too. Where the things you pick up on when you watch it for a second time, there's little subtleties where you're like, wow, that's kind of a racist thing to say. Yeah. There's little things.
The thing about it is it's not overtly racist. It's real, thin veiled stuff, which is kind of the point I think Peele is trying to make in this movie, is that's the kind of racism for the most part that you deal with now. Right. I mean, there's parts of this country that are still completely overtly racist, but overall you kind of get the...
That scared the shit out of me, by the way.
What's that?
The guy dropping off our groceries.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, talk about a horror movie and then we've got a guy walking past the window and dropping off our groceries and freaking my wife out.
Yeah.
But, generally racism these days is a lot more kind of, in a lot of ways it's a little more sinister because it's kind of just below the surface. All these people are treating, on the outset, they're all treating Chris great. They're nice to him. But there's these little things her dad has to mention that, he would have voted for Obama another time. Yeah. He keeps calling him my man. And, he's trying to, they're just a little bit over the top.
Honestly, I think he was doing that so that it didn't seem like they were... I don't know. I feel like that was kind of some sort of cover up a little bit for how extremely racist they were.
Yeah. Well, it's also the kind of racism where they don't think that they're necessarily racist.
Right.
So
They're like, oh no, it's not like in the end, the one guy's like, I don't care what color you are. I just know that you're strong and you're,
So one of the big, things in this movie is the reason that all these black men are getting chosen by these older white people to kind of, basically what they're doing is they're using these young, strong black men and they're kind of moving their consciousness from their old white bodies into these younger black bodies. Yeah. Like one of the characters is her grandfather. You ends up finding out it's her grandfather.
Yeah, and it's like, and Chris's interaction with these guys is weird because they're not acting like normal people.
Yeah, like one of them he knows.
Yes.
Like he doesn't like so Chris is a photographer, so he's kind of a little bit in the art world, and this guy that he comes across is it takes him a minute at first because like the way that the guy's acting is not at all acting like you would expect, a young urban professional type, especially a black one, to be acting like Andy Griffith basically.
Yeah.
So it's really like throwing him off.
Like he's acting like 80
and
years
he's
old.
kind of trying to go out of his way to, go through that,
and their smiles, even when they smile, it's like forced,
So
one thing that was kind of a cool theme through the whole thing is Chris really suppressed something very traumatic that happened to him when he was a kid.
The death of his mother.
His death of his mother was by hit and run, and he doesn't like to talk about it. Well, in the movie, when they're driving to her parents' house, they hit a deer. Now, do we think that happened on purpose?
I don't think so. I think it just happens as part of the story.
Okay, because it really triggers him to remember his mom and how he felt he did not help her.
I didn't even really think about it that
way. And that he goes into the woods, he calls 911 because he didn't do that for his mom. And he's like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I'm
right?
Like how would they have made it happen?
Well, it was interesting because when you look at it, when you look at the film, it looks like they threw it at his car. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that they threw it at his car to intentionally bring up this stuff about his mom.
I think you might be right.
And so then when they get to the house, the mother's like, they ask, oh, where's your parents? But they already know.
Yeah, they
know because he told her.
Yeah, they know everything about him, like coming in, and the thing I didn't pick up the first time is the auction scene. Mm-hmm. The auction scene is really creepy.
That's so weird, and it's done in silence.
Everything's done in silence
because they don't want Chris to know.
Right. So they're basically like people are bidding for Chris's body. Like all these old white people are bidding for Chris's body.
It's really creepy as hell. And so it's like, and Chris, the whole time, he knows something's going on.
And he knows something's going on by the behavior of the other African American characters.
Yeah.
So they're not acting like he would expect, like his expectation about how black people act around white people.
Yeah.
Is like not being fulfilled by these people.
Yeah, like he's like, hey, dude, help me out here.
Yeah, like, hey, they're not around. What's the real deal? Like, what's going on? Here? Like, we can be real now because they're not around.
Yeah.
And they're just like they're acting so weird that he's just like so off put by them.
I also feel like they focused on Chris's smoking habit. Mm-hmm. At first I thought, oh, they're just like trying to get an in on how they could get in, hypnotize him and stuff. But I really think they didn't want him to smoke because they didn't want him damaging his body.
Yes.
Who was going to be given to
because
somebody
he's
else.
Really like aggressively angry about him smoking.
Yes.
Like it kind of like the dad character, he kind of breaks through.
He's like, do you smoke around my daughter?
Yes.
Or maybe she never told them. Maybe if they knew that he smoked, he wouldn't have been an option.
Right.
Who knows? But yeah, so so she hypnotizes him. And one, I think it was a test to see if he could be hypnotized, because that's how they get
That's
people
how,
to.
Well, that's how they control. That's how they control them. Yeah.
And at first he wasn't tripping off it, and then he was like really thinking about it, like, wait a minute.
At first he's like, you know what? I think it
helped me.
Well, he had the first was like, did it happen? And then he realized, like, because earlier they were the father was talking about how he used to smoke and she did this to him, and then all of a sudden he, had a complete distaste for cigarettes in general.
Yeah, and it happened to him too.
And that happened to him, so he's like, obviously I was hypnotized by her.
One of my favorite things about this movie is Chris's best friend, because he knows what's happening.
Yeah.
He's like, don't go to her house. Don't go to her parents' house. That's not a good idea. Right? Yeah. And then he's like, there's something going on there. I don't know. Maybe they're making us sex slaves or something like that. Yeah. Like, he basically saves him.
Which kind of plays into the other kind of thing that you kind of, that goes along with this whole genetics thing that has always been bandied about. You've got that racist argument that, black people, because of, genetics through slavery, are stronger physical, beings, and that kind of plays through with sexuality as well. So they're playing on it on more than one front. With the sexuality angle, they're playing on it more on a comedic level, because the best friend is kind of like the comic relief in the whole scenario until the very end. And then you've got the other side of it, which is the really sinister part, where they're trying to find able-bodied black men and women as well, because
her grandmother.
Yeah,
the grandmother is in a woman's body.
Yeah, they transported grandpa and grandpa into these
grandpa and grandma,
into these younger African American people. So
one of my favorite things that Chris says to his friend on the phone is like, he's like, I'm talking to these guys and it's like they all miss the movement. Because of the way they're like talking to him. It's like they weren't a part of the whole like black movement or anything.
They don't know anything.
Which they weren't.
Yeah.
Because they're like,
because they're not
them.
That's not them. They're in a black body, but they're not those people anymore.
Yeah.
Those people are gone for the most part.
And like the family themselves are like just horrible freaking human beings, right? Yeah. They're just like sick human beings. But I felt like the worst was his girlfriend, was Rose, because
there's a scene where he finds like all of her old photos and stuff, and she has told him previously like he's her first black boyfriend, but then he goes through it and he sees like all these photos, and then one of the guy who we end up finding out is the grandpa.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what is going on here? So
yeah, and it's really like, it's pretty horrible, because she's the one that builds relationships with these men and lures them into it. It's crazy. But
this is a really
such a good movie. And if you've only seen it once, I highly recommend watching it again, because you pick up on a lot of stuff that you might have missed the first time. Phenomenal film.
Yeah, this movie announced Jordan Peele as a filmmaker to watch out for, and not just the Key and Peele guy.
Yeah, and his movie Us is fantastic, and Nope is fantastic as well.
I haven't had a chance to check that one out.
It's really good.
I definitely want to.
Anyway, that's what we have to say about that movie. That was our number 9, Get Out. If you have any comments or anything you want to say, please comment on this video, like and subscribe. And if you want to email us at ratingthelist@gmail.com. But for now, that's it. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad.
And we're Rating the List. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.